Welcome back to the Comic Lyra podcast, and obviously you've tuned in especially because this week is the first week of the staple topic of the Comic Lyra podcast,
You're not making Marvchel a thing.
It's the first week of Marvchel.
You're not making it's not Marvchel, guys. We are going to talk about Marvel
for 4 weeks.
we are going to talk about Marvel for 4 weeks, yes.
Because it's Marvchel.
No. I will accept Marvel March.
That seems like a lot of extra syllables when you could just say Marvchel.
A pun on, I think there's like American football stuff that happens in March and they call it March Madness.
Is it definitely American football or is it basketball?
I don't fucking know. I don't know.
We are not very clued in on American topics.
No.
As we will get to.
Absolutely, yeah. I know nothing of America. We've both been precisely once.
I've been a few times.
Right, what are we talking about today in the first episode of March Madness?
And just in case anyone, if it's your first episode, this is the Comic Lyra podcast where we comically
and literally
review comic books. I'm Ryan, also known as Comic Stan, and it's my co-host Jamie. And as I said, as we both agreed, is the first week of Marvchel, so therefore we are covering one of Marvel's staple characters.
You're not getting Marvchel through.
One of its oldest, most well-known characters. We're covering, we're actually covering something else that I thought we were going to cover. We've had a slight admin snafu on this side. Was meant to do something, was doing something else instead. But basically, we're covering the Incredible Hulk series from 2023, I believe.
Which sets up the one that we were going to read, which we can cover soon.
We'll do it later. I mean, our general thoughts on the comic, I think, are going to be very similar to this as it was going to be the Infernal
How
Hulk.
do I even know what my general thoughts are going to be, Ryan, until I hear... General thoughts. It was all right.
General thoughts for the Incredible Hulk series from 2023, I think, off the top of my head, around that time. But yeah, it's all right. The story, I think, is interesting enough that it carries on, but it is the art and the panel layout, which I think are the most interesting things.
Absolutely. I had some fun with it, but mostly looking at it and not reading it.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those where I liked the way Hulk looked. I liked that it was a brave direction for Hulk.
It's kind of interesting because this takes place. This is the second iteration after the Immortal Hulk series ended.
Yeah.
So that's one we covered, and I've made no secret about being a huge fan of. And then in between these, there was a series that didn't run for very long at all, which basically, it might have been called Hulk or Incredible Hulk, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the plot of it was basically Bruce Banner has done like a mind palace thing in his head where he's got the personality of the Hulk as like the engine, but he's using the physical body with his mind. So, but it's in his head, he's like a pilot. Like,
That's fucking dumb.
Yeah, I went from Immortal Hulk, finishing that, being like, I'm a big Hulk fan. And then this series started, I went, I'm a big Immortal Hulk fan. Like,
we have this all the time, though, don't we? Where it's like, just because you love one iteration of a character, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to love everything.
Yeah, but you think that initially, don't you? You're like, yeah, it's rare now. I think every comic fan has that, where they'll read like a really good iteration and be like, I'm a fan of this, and they're not.
Yes.
But then you notice, and it's more important when you latch onto a character. Like for you, Supergirl was one of them.
Yeah.
Where you're like, you just enjoyed most Supergirl stories you read. For me, it was Daredevil. And I was like, that was for me, it was like, oh my God, these are still like really good. Like you still have your favorites and preferences.
Yeah,
but...
in general, I like Supergirl. I like Dick Grayson when he shows up. I like all the Robins when they show up, but that's well documented. Weird, because I really liked Immortal Hulk as well. So moving out of general thoughts.
The reason I was mentioning all that, I was on a point that I forgot, but now back on. No, it was me. Don't worry. It was that when they did that, I think there was a noticeable drop in interest and sales. So then they went to this version, which is closer to the Immortal Hulk version, because there's a lot of Eldritch horror, body horror kind of stuff.
Yes.
This has more of and we'll get it into it as we go into the art. This has more of like a kind of 70s and 80s B-movie horror-esque vibe.
Yeah.
Whereas the Immortal Hulk was like a more like dark psychopathic, like had like gothic horror.
Yes.
So I think there's a very tonal difference, but I can see why they went back in this direction after the Hulk's like a ship that Bruce Banner's flying and all that bollocks.
I think this kind of direction for Hulk, a sort of horror flick, is for me a much better direction for Hulk than just playing it with a straight bat. I find Hulk stories a bit boring.
Yeah. To be fair, because he's been around for so long and they've done a lot of stuff.
He lends himself really well to being a horror character as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, really, the Hulk thing is it's Marvel riffing on the Jekyll and Hyde concept, isn't it?
Bit of that, bit of Frankenstein. Like it's
I suppose. Yeah,
I think Jekyll and Hyde is probably the most like Stan Lee probably has a story. I've almost certainly heard it where it's like I was reading the curious story of Jekyll and Hyde, and I thought, what if he was a monster but he was a superhero, and then I got paid $1 billion or whatever the story is.
And I bet Jack Kirby came up with the idea.
Almost certainly.
Like when he says I was reading Jekyll and Hyde, what he actually means was
I saw Kirby reading Jekyll and Hyde.
I saw Kirby reading Jekyll and Hyde, and then Kirby had an idea that was also my idea. But yeah, I think Hulk is best when taken in this sort of direction. I find him quite compelling as a horror character. In general, I found the story, as you've said, it wasn't bad.
I think at this point, just for curiosity, for anyone who cares, there's about 30 issues of this series out currently, or it ended on 30 issues quite recently. We'll mention towards the end what happens after that 30 issue and where the series is currently.
Jamie made a mistake.
but we're mainly focusing on the first 4 issues because that's what Jamie has read and we'll be covering. But the point is, the first 4 issues is a very kind of setting the table in a very, I would use the term a lot, and I think it's more accurate here, a paint by numbers story.
Yeah.
It's still got like its elements of horror and stuff, which are really interesting. But the actual plot basically is there's a big bad that's being mentioned in hushed whispers that we'll find out about more later.
Yeah, I mean, again, it certainly was good enough that I would read more.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I think you do get exactly what you get for the rest of the series in this. There's there's great moments, there's fun horror moments, it's really creepy at points. The story, at the very least, it's not predictable. And that's as best as I can say for it, is that I kept reading it just because I was like, what is going to happen next? I wasn't quite a gripping like, what's going to happen next? But it was like, I can't say for sure what's going to happen next. So, unlike other mid-comics we've read where we're like, definitely know what's going to happen next.
So moving on to starting with the arting, which is no longer starting with the arting. This is certainly where I think this comic shines.
100%, yeah.
I really like that there is a jagged edge and a bit of jank in a lot of the faces, but I can live with that in a horror flick. You know, it's a horror flick. It's supposed to look a bit...
It's your Ice Cream Man exception.
Yeah, it is the Ice Cream Man exception, where I don't necessarily like the way it looks, but objectively, as objectively as one can speak about this kind of thing, I think they've done a good job, and I think it's all very fitting.
It's meant to be off-putting and creepy.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that I would really recommend it for, and this is something we used to talk about a lot, that we talk about less, but I really like the way that this comic is laid out, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoy that.
I really like the way it's laid out. There's a lot of inset panels. It really, really encourages you. I sometimes feel like when comic book layout is too simple or too obvious, I almost scan from the bottom of the page up sometimes. Like, I don't scan it the way that the author's intended because I'm always kind of reading ahead and I'm just kind of looking around the page. This is one where every single time I turned the page, I am confident I scanned through it exactly as they wanted me to.
Yeah.
Because they encouraged it. They really encouraged you to scan through this one in a particular way. There's a lot of panels where you've got a big Hulk on one side and then the rest of the story happening down the left.
Yep.
Like, it's really well laid out, and I think it makes it it's well laid out and the art is eye-catching.
Yeah.
So the art's always catching your eye, and it's laid out in such a way that it makes it a very pleasurable read.
Yeah, there's a lot of transformation sequences, which you would think, it being a whole comic, it's like, well, of course there is.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of other monsters and people turning into monsters. So
it's body horror, isn't it?
Exactly. And very reminiscent. I think if I was to nail it down, the tone, it's obviously a lot more like movies would have to be like CGI to do as much of the stuff there is, but it's very close in tone to like Werewolf in London kind of style. Like that transformation scene especially, I think it takes a lot of tone inspiration from.
There's I agree with you. There's a certain tone and vibe of horror, older horror, vintage horror, that I think you can beautify a bit and transplant into comic books really effectively, and that's what's happened here. This is a very good looking comic, and it's a very well laid out comic, and I think that in and of itself makes it quite impactful as a sort of horror flick.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this, if you could look at this, if the MCU were getting to a point where they were like, we have to shake things up, we need to do things differently, first and foremost, I'd be like, do Immortal Hulk, like do that kind of stuff. But if they didn't do that, and I don't understand why they wouldn't do that, if they lent more into this kind of body horror stuff, which I think they can do if it's not fully like bloody and gory.
Marvel will never do a horror film.
Well, they've done as close to. They did a Marvel special with the Werewolf by Night character.
When did they do that? Where was
this?
That?
Was
that
like
straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah, straight to Disney Plus. It was like an hour special, so it wasn't a film, but it wasn't a TV show.
Yeah, totally.
But what's interesting about it was black and white. And it was very like 50s, 40s, maybe even like horror-esque.
Like Silver Age.
Yeah, and it's a character. The main character is obviously a werewolf, but it also had Man-Thing in it, who we see in this comic towards the end of issue 4. And it has Elsa Bloodstone, who's like a demon hunter kind of character, and it's like set in a gothic castle, and it has like the old, the Frankenstein technology with the light, the electricity going between Tesla coils and all that stuff.
A little bit of steampunk,
like
Victorian, the Victorian idea of what a technology would look like.
Yeah, so they do all that stuff, and I think that was like was it dipping the toe in like, would people like if we did stuff like this?
Did people like it?
It was very well received. I have no idea how many people watched it, and I think it could be excused for like, it's not a TV show that they've overhyped or anything. It's not a film that they've like marketed and stuff. They dropped it, and then it's like, what measure is it being compared to? Like, how many people watched
hard,
it?
Isn't it?
But what I will say is, everyone who watched it, it was like highly critically acclaimed. Like people really enjoyed it.
I think Marvel stuff being locked into a particular streaming service, as it will be now for a long time, I think, makes it really hard to judge the success of those kind of things, because the Disney Plus user base is broad, I would imagine, but
broader than I thought it would have been when the concept was first being floated, because I thought it was just going to be Disney stuff.
I knew it would be fucking huge the moment they announced it.
Oh, it'd be huge, but what I thought was it was only going to be like up to a certain age stuff, like Disney, because I thought they were very protective of like the Disney brand as a kid's brand. Yes. And I thought it made even more sense to me that they were buying Fox, because when they bought Fox, I thought, you can keep the Fox brand, like FX and all that stuff. You can make that stuff your adult stuff, or just anything that you don't want to associate with Disney. And they surprised me when they were just like, no, everything's on Disney Plus, like 18 stuff, like everything. And I was like, all right, fair enough.
You know what though? Of the streaming services, I've had all 3 of the big ones at various points. Don't have any anymore, because
you should get Disney Plus. You should watch Wonder Man on Disney Plus.
Well, do you know what it is? We're doing 0 screen time for our baby.
How long will that last?
2 years.
Oh, you've got a set day on it.
Yeah, my partner's autistic. My partner's autistic, and she did the fucking research, and she was like, screen time before 2 turns their brain to mush. It's here. And I read it, and I was like, can't really argue with the science. And she was like, no screen time. No. And we started watching TV around him, right? And then he got a bit older, and he could turn his own head. And you just see him turning around to look at it. And it's like, oh, fuck. I spent so much time trying to angle him away from a TV that we're now like, no more TV in the house while he's awake.
Wow.
So it just kind of makes them a bad investment. But Disney was always my favorite. Like, I would have them on a rotation, because only a fucking mad person has all 3 at once.
Oh, yeah. As long as, like, the only one I have to keep on is Disney Plus, because when, like, Marvel shows drop and stuff, but short of that, Netflix, Prime, Apple, I rotate them, have them once a month.
Yeah.
Because those are mostly the stuff that I'm like, I'll watch it when I get to it, you know?
Yeah, and, I tended to find that Disney, like, often had something that I wanted to watch. Like, I absolutely burned through Mad Men for the millionth time when it went on there, because I was like, fuck it, Mad Men's on there, why not? But, yeah, I think, going back to what I was saying before I rudely interrupted myself, if Marvel were brave enough to jump outside of the superhero genre, or to make a sort of more blended genre movie, I think horror would be a great place to start. And I think the logical character for them to use would be an iteration of Hulk like this.
Yeah.
I think this is dying to be like a really saucy horror film where there's something killing people and you don't know what it is and you don't really see much of it. And then it kind of transpires at the end that it's Hulk. There is a loose Hulk and he's killing things.
I would like them to really take advantage of the split personality of the character.
Body horror.
Because the problem is they were gearing up to it. The other big problem with Hulk is that there's something with Universal where they own the rights to ever doing a Hulk solo film. And that's why he hasn't had one. So God knows how that might resolve, if ever.
Universal and Disney have been more and more chill, though.
Well, Universal, I don't even know what they do anymore these days. Like, I'm surprised I haven't heard of them being bought by a big entity, probably Disney. But
Disney would spend a lot of money just to get the X-Men and Spider-Man.
They have them. They have X-Men already from Fox. So Fox owned X-Men and Fantastic Four. So that's how they have them now.
Are they going to do a mainline X-Men film? Then?
Yeah, after Secret Wars. So they're doing Doomsday first this year, end of this year. And
is that the one with RBJ as RDJ? RDJ is Doom.
RBJ a lot. I think it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, it is. Do you know what? She's always on my mind.
Yeah.
She was great.
I don't know. She refused to step down when she should have when Obama was in. And
look, we're not allowed to talk about American politics anymore.
About US politics, apparently.
By virtue of our ancestors remaining in the motherland, we're not allowed to talk about American politics anymore.
More to come to that at the end of the episode.
Oh, fuck, I can't wait. I can't fucking wait.
But
Doom.
RDJ playing Doom.
Is he actually playing Doom, though? Yeah,
he is 100% playing Doom.
Well, no, I know he's playing Doom, but is it going to be like...
Whether he shows his face or not, that's a different question. Like, whether he will literally be... whether Doom will have Robert Downey Jr.'s face or not is to be seen. Yeah. I hope they don't show his face. I hope they keep the mask on the entire time.
Yeah, fucking funny-looking cunt.
Yeah, that's just...
I'm joking. He's a very handsome man.
But you don't want characters to look at Iron Man's face and not be like, you Iron Man? Like, I think there's a cognitive distance there, which I think is just going to be annoying.
People looking at Doom's face and not saying, but it's going to be fucking multiverse shenanigans anyway,
But the fact that you're saying it like that, that's not a good thing to do. No. Whereas, if they just keep the mask on him, which Doom is known for always wearing his mask, and has only shown his face like a handful of times in the entire time he's been around.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the few things they've, apart from, when they go really stringent, where it's like, Ben Parker stays dead, keep Bucky Barnes dead for decades until bringing back as Winter Soldier. Same with Jason Todd as Red Hood. Like, Doom not showing his face for a long time was a thing they stuck to.
It's one of maybe two consistencies in Marvel over about 40 years, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
I get it.
It makes sense they would do it that way. But going back to the Hulk, I would like to see that kind of split personality thing be used more, where I don't want Hulk to be the bad guy, but I do want the suspicion of Mark Ruffalo being like, Bruce Banner's being like, can I trust this Hulk personality? Because he's been fighting him for so long. You know?
Who was the Hulk in the Universal Hulk film?
Ed Norton.
Was it Ed Norton?
Yeah, he was a good Bruce Banner.
I've not seen them in years and years and years and years and years.
I mean, Disney basically Marvel and Disney basically swept it under the rug for decades, like only referencing it in passing with Ruffalo's character. It wasn't until they brought back the General Ross character from that film, who was kind of like, okay, we acknowledge this film existed, and then it wasn't until Captain America, Brave New World.
Don't look at me.
The Anthony Mackie one, where they brought back the woman who played Betty Ross, the love interest. So that was that's even longer after that film came out. But yeah, no one it's one of those, technically, this was the second film of the Marvel MCU because it was after Iron Man, but no one thinks about it or remembers it, barely. So
it came out after Iron Man.
yeah, it was Iron Man. It came out because the post-credit scene of the Incredible Hulk is General Ross drinking in a bar and Tony Stark walking in the bar and being like, basically doing to him what Nick Fury did to Tony Stark at the end of Iron Man, where he's like, we're putting together a team and we need your help, implying that they want the Hulk for the Avengers, right?
Yeah.
Then they released a short, like, DVD, straight to DVD video special, which was Agent Coulson of S.H.I.E.L.D. being like, so there was a bad guy in, the bad guy in Incredible Hulk was a character called Abomination, who's just evil Hulk, basically. Yeah. But he reveals, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. want Abomination for the Avengers. And he's talking to his other...
Abomination's the hairy one, isn't he?
No, he's got, like, gills out the side of his...
Who's hairy Hulk? Do you know what I mean?
Sasquatch.
Probably
Sasquatch.
We love Sasquatch.
But this other one's like, we can't have Abomination. This other secret agent's like, we can't have Abomination on the Avengers. Like, he's a bad guy. What are we going to do? And then Agent Coulson's like, what if we sent a really obnoxious, annoying person to General Ross to annoy him out of giving us Abomination? It's like, but who do we know who's that annoying and obnoxious? It cuts to Tony Stark, like, we want the Abomination. And then it literally, the short goes straight after. It's like, did it work? Yep, 100%. We're not getting Abomination.
Brilliant. I never knew that.
So yeah, that's the most like Incredible Hulk related stuff that the MCU has done for the most part.
So, because it was then in the Avengers that we got Mark Ruffalo, wasn't it?
Yes, and they only brought him in as part of the story because they were like, the bloody Tesseract gives off gamma radiation. Where are we going to find a gamma radiation expert in this world who might also have superpowers or something that we might later need?
Yeah.
And yeah, which was a great scene with Black Widow finding him in some third world country. I don't think they were specific. Ambiguous third world country that
Marvel loves that shit.
That Bruce Banner's hiding in. But great scene with that, where she goes to find him and he pretends to get angry. And she pulls the gun out and he's like, just kidding. But also, they then later reference that he's not scared at all of like her pulling a gun out on him. Not just because he is the Hulk, because he references trying to kill himself.
He says, I put a bullet in my mouth. I put a gun in my mouth and then the other guy spat the bullet out.
Yeah.
So he knows if you shoot him, he's going to turn into the Hulk and he's going to Hulk out and you're just going to shoot the Hulk and it's pointless.
And that was part of the appeal with the Immortal Hulk. If you say from here, even though we left it a while ago, kind of getting into the story here, I think we're not talking about like the beat by beat plot points.
No, because it's not that interesting.
It's mostly, I mean, there's some interesting stuff with Hulk meeting this girl and becoming friends with this girl who's escaped like this abusive family relationship. And it's, they do an interesting thing where Hulk is the one who's kind of friends with her because he kind of respects how she's like not taking no for an answer.
And Banner's trying to send her away.
Yeah. And as I can't remember if it's revealed in this or in the later issues that I read, but Banner's point is basically anyone who's near us gets hurt.
Yeah.
Whereas Hulk, he doesn't have as much of that, like...
Doesn't give a shit.
Well, from his perspective, he's like, I'm invincible. Like... She'll be fine near me, if anywhere. Like, and Banner has to be the one who's like, everyone, we don't have any like loved ones around us anymore. We don't have friends because they all die or get turned into monsters.
Yeah.
So
you're a bad influence, Hulk.
And the girl being like that kind of rebellious teenager, she's like, Hulk's cool. Banner's a wet blanket. Like, ugh.
It's a little Last of Us, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, this is around that time where, but it's Hulk. Hulk is the one who's like, keep her around, stick with me, kid. And Banner's like, do I have to be the responsible one here?
Yes, Banner, you do. Always, in every interpretation.
But by introducing her as a character, I think what makes it interesting is it pits them kind of against each other, Banner and Hulk. Normally, they're just pit against each other because they both have to essentially share a body.
Yeah.
But by introducing her, they're actually having a conflict of like how to be, how to act.
My favourite Hulk and Banner moments are the ones where there's actual like interplay and conversation between the characters, and that's kind of what she provides. I also like that it isn't dumb Hulk. He's not a very... He's quite an intelligent Hulk, isn't he?
Yeah, there's a bit later where... So they introduce this concept way later in the thing called the Hulkscape, and it's where the characters go when they're not in the real world.
Right.
And there is a point where this Hulk meets like Hulk Smash Hulk. and he's kind of a bit like, you're still here. So it's almost like they're kind of acknowledging like Hulk isn't really dumb anymore, but they're not giving like a proper reason why. The reason he wasn't dumb in Immortal Hulk was because he was a new aspect of the Hulk called Devil Hulk.
Yeah.
But in this, they're kind of like, he's not Devil Hulk, but he's not Hulk Smash Hulk. He's just a Hulk that can speak in sentences, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I have a strong preference for not Hulk Smash Hulk.
Really? You find it? Yeah, I can see. I know what you mean. Like, it's more interesting when he actually has like things to say.
Yeah, I just like, because then you've got interplay between Hulk and Banner, and that's what you have here. You have kind of, there is a conversation happening between these two disparate ideologies. I don't think that Hulk Smash Hulk can really be seen to have an ideology, because he is essentially...
He's just a child, like, I think is the point. Is
worse than that, I think, because at least, like, you know, speaking as a parent, I spent a lot of time around a baby, and my baby is only a few months old, and he already has like a bit of a personality, and like, you know, we kind of have to work around him because he has a personality already. I feel like Dumb Hulk at his core is just an unstoppable force.
Yeah,
that's the thing, and that's often, and that's certainly the way that MCU Banner views Hulk. He views him as an unstoppable force that he has to contain, whereas this Banner sees his Hulk as being something more malevolent than that because he's intelligent.
Yeah,
and so I think that's what's most interesting about this and the Immortal Hulk, is that the Hulk is more than just an unstoppable force. He is a presence and a personality.
Yeah. And I think with Immortal Hulk, they went with more of the Banner was genuinely like, well, I can't die. So, and he's kind of like got an air of depression around that.
Yeah. I mean, he's along for the ride, isn't he, to a certain degree?
But the point being that he does die, but Immortal Hulk always comes back because that's why it's Immortal Hulk. In this, it's less about that, even though I think that is still a factor. But it's more about they are kind of almost like a dysfunctional relationship, but they literally can't leave each other.
Yeah.
So they've had all the arguments. Like there's nothing new to say. It's just resentment between them.
Yes.
And I think this does a good job of showing that. It's not like, God, if it wasn't for you, I'd just be me, and you're ruining my life and all that. They're almost just like Hulk's just like, don't like Banner, like that, like doesn't even need to say anymore because it's already been said. And Banner's just like, yeah, I'm the Hulk sometimes. Like that's bad.
Yeah.
Like they don't have the energy to get into why they don't like each other anymore because it's already been exhausted already.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they managed to get there at the start. That's where it starts.
This is the thing: it's the modern superhero stuff does just have to assume like you know who this is, you know what this deal is.
Yeah, I often wonder. That's a really interesting point. It's something that we've not touched on. Imagine what it must have been like for people the first time when these characters were new and fresh, and this was like innovative. It's because we've gotten to a point now where all this stuff is so well worn that 99% of what you and I talk about on this podcast, when we talk about, you know, when it's February or Marvchel,
and
we spend a whole month really like getting down to the nitty gritty of what, you know, Marvel or DC are putting out at the moment. It's like
a check-in for where they are as a company and a brand.
And unfortunately this week it's ended up being where they were 3 years ago because I fucked up and read the wrong comic.
But this still releasing, so it is part of the modern zeitgeist.
This is very much like this led into the comic that's just started releasing that we were going to talk about.
Yes.
But what we end up talking about a lot is nuance, right? Like the differences and the alterations that each individual writer makes to these characters is ultimately quite small. Even, you know, Immortal Hulk was quite a big shift for the character.
Yes.
But now people are iterating on that concept, and we've now had 2 iterations on that concept.
But I think because they had the one in the middle, which was so far away from that.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, shit, we need to go back.
Yeah.
It's the meme is, shit, put it back, reverse.
It's I mean, the subtle changes in the way these characters develop, and the fact that is ultimately determined by a buying market. You know, what they're producing isn't based on what they think is good. It's based on what they think we as the comic book consuming community will buy, right?
Oh, true, yeah.
And following and tracking and tracing those subtle changes in these characters and the way they evolve, I ultimately think that is the work of our podcast.
Yeah.
I think that originally it was like, I like books and you like comics. We should talk about stories, right? And I think more and more it's become less us talking about stories and more talking about the subtle interplay between the different versions of these characters as they evolve, because where else do you see media that just fucking rolls like this?
Well, the similarity I always think of, which I heard someone else bring up, but it's just stuck with me, is this is the modern day version of the old mythology of like Greek or Roman gods.
Absolutely.
And those stories would just pile on and stack on top of, and keep going. But in the same vein as well, if someone like almost certainly people would create stories about the gods back then that no one liked and they were just forgotten about. But for a time they would be told. In the same way now, someone will they'll release a Hulk story. It's like, no one liked that. So, right, just forget that ever happened. And then, but what is good from decades becomes part of the history of the character. Yeah, the canon, exactly. Yeah. That was the word I was looking for.
I think that's what that is, I think, we're kind of doing like comic letter admin live on air right now, where we're just kind of talking about, it's getting a bit navel-gazing, and that's my fault because that's who I am as a human being. But I think it's important. I think it's interesting. In as much as, like, to a certain degree, I think you can judge how successful a comic book writer has been by the stamp that they were able to leave on a character. And Al Ewing, in that regard, has been incredibly effective in creating like a whole new vein of Hulk stories that are in that kind of body horror, body horror, eldritch horror kind of genre, right? The last person I can think of that really did anything that broke ground on a character that much was Alan Moore making Batman grittier.
I don't know how, because, I mean, bearing in mind, around that time, Batman also had Jason Todd was beat to death by a crowbar. So I think, like, whether he pushed him in that direction, or he was seeing the signs, or it just was like the luck of the moment of like getting Alan Moore to write that story at the time when the public shifting. Maybe
he can't even be credited with doing that.
Well, that's the thing. He could, or he could. Like, there's so many factors that could consider it.
But I would argue that Al Ewing really can be credited with this.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think what's interesting is with that as well. And it's a shame that for anyone who might have been like, yes, they're talking about my favorite Hulk series, the 2023 Incredible Hulk series, and we keep bringing up Immortal Hulk. Yeah. Put it this way, if you like this, you'd love Immortal Hulk. Like, it's so in this wheelhouse if you haven't read it. But what's interesting about Immortal Hulk is what, for me, was a great example of, was it was a good example of bringing a character back who had just died, but making their resurrection the shift in the character. Because if they hadn't have done that, it would have been just the same. Hulk was dead.
Jason Todd.
I mean, he changed when he came back.
Exactly. That's my point.
Oh, right. I thought you were referencing when they don't do it.
No, that's my point.
Yes.
And I would argue that everything that makes Jason Todd really interesting,
as part of his resurrection,
happened post Under the Red Hood, not before the Joker killed him with a crowbar. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. But Bruce Banner got shot by an arrow in Civil War II, and they were like, well, he's dead now for a bit, and that's a big thing. And everyone knew he was going to come back soon.
Well, of course, because they need to make that money.
But then by making the whole plot, the core plot of the Immortal Hulk is Bruce Banner can't die, and then where do we go with that story? And then like Heaven and Hell and the Green Door, and the Green Door thing, which was invented in the Immortal Hulk. I don't know if it was invented in. It might have existed beforehand, but it became like a main part of the Hulk mythos going forward. Yeah. That's now a thing in this series. Yeah. I can't remember if it's mentioned here or in the later issues that I read, but that becomes like a very focal, like gamma radiation being at the edge, because it's literally at the edge of the radiation spectrum. Yeah. It's the gap between science and magic.
Yes.
And the magic being like the underworld and other dimensions and hell dimensions and stuff.
Do you know the Isaac Asimov quote about magic?
Stuff that the most modern, I'm ad-libbing it to hell, I can't remember.
Any technology modern that technology is sufficiently advanced should be indistinguishable from magic.
We both know it word for word. So that's what gamma radiation is, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really true. I think that they've done a really good job of bringing elements of eldritch horror and the occult and magic into the Hulk, which was at its core a science fiction story. And it's given the whole character a new dimension. I've not read a whole lot of vintage Hulk.
No, yeah. Not like stuff from the 60s, I think, was very kind of samey.
But even stuff, I don't know if we've ever talked about another Hulk comic other than like an Al Ewing one.
Of those two, no.
So I've not read a whole heap. I've read a little bit for my own purposes, and I don't enjoy it as much as this stuff.
Yeah, I think the main one I remember from before, like Immortal Hulk, was there was a period of time, I mean, there was a couple, of one of them I've read, where Hulk became a genius. Yeah. He became known as like Professor Green, and he started to like try and like solve everything, like how we saw and all that stuff. And it was like, it felt very much like, what if we made the Hulk smart? And it was like the exact same tone and everything, but it was just that difference.
Yeah.
Whereas this stuff, the tone shift can be felt not only in the story, but mainly in the art and the portrayal and the whole vibe of it, you know?
And I think if you're going to shake a character up, a big tonal shift is a much better way of achieving that than just changing something about the character. Again, I think this is maybe where some of the Absolute series fell a little flat for me, because the Martian Manhunter stuff that was really, really good was a big tonal shift.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolute Batman was more of a, what if Batman was young, poor, and 7 foot tall?
Yeah,
right?
Basically. I might be having a video come out about that soon.
Oh, he's teasing it. Yep. I've been trying desperately to get a video made recently and just failing.
About any particular topic?
Yeah, there's 2 topics that I'm working on concurrently. One of them is the story of St. Edmund,
right.
The martyrdom of St. Edmund.
The Deal or No Deal host?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Also, well, I mean, the video would be more about his Mr. Blobby years.
Right. The Eldritch horror years.
The Eldritch horror years.
And if you don't know who Mr. Blobby is, look it up.
Oh, look it up. And then if you really want a treat, look up the 90s Christmas number 1, Mr. Blobby. Yep. It's on Spotify. It's great.
It's terrifying.
The intro alone is terrifying. But it's either that, or for anyone who doesn't know, I have a YouTube channel called Myths for Sad Grown-Ups where I talk about myths on YouTube.
Yeah.
The other thing is I really want to do an episode on the yokai, which are like the monsters in the Chinese or the Japanese Shinto religions that form the basis for Pokemon.
Yeah.
But I've kind of been concurrently working on both of them and failing.
You gotta pick something and just go ahead with it.
I just need to finish one of them.
Yeah.
But
before we move on, what about a British Hulk? But he turns in when he
he's the absolute unit.
No, he turns into Mr. Blobby.
Oh no!
You wouldn't like me when I'm Blobby.
There is a tattoo artist that I like. He tattooed Tyr, the Norse god of war, on me. And he, on a flash sheet, did Blobby, right, with a torch running away from a burning medieval village, implying that it just torched it. And the only reason I don't have that tattoo is because he moved from Lincolnshire, like, right up north, and I haven't been able to get to him. But the moment I can be bothered to drive up north, that will be adorning my body.
Like a Hulk transformation, but Blobby.
Yeah, Blobby. Do you know, this is such a fucking tangent.
On this podcast,
when I was 2, my parents took me to Skegness, right? And I was a huge Blobby fan. Massive right. Blobby fan. And there was a guy in a Blobby suit, right? And there is a photo, and there's a photograph of me because they took me to meet the guy in the Blobby suit, and I found him fucking terrifying, yeah, right?
As is the right response.
As is the correct response. What's funny about the photograph is I'm clutching my little Blobby plushie for comfort. So I'm like holding my little Blobby because I'm terrified of giant Blobby, and it's a really great photograph.
My little Blobby is the British My Little Pony.
Friendship is magic, said Noel Edmonds.
Friendship is...
Anyway. Yes, but my point is that some of the Absolute stuff didn't have enough of a tonal shift from their general fare, and it made it feel samey. Whereas this is like... Well, I mean, I suppose this isn't a tonal shift anymore because this has become like there is a vein of this Hulk content.
Yeah, this is almost like halfway between Immortal Hulk and like run-of-the-mill Hulk.
It's a good compromise. It's a good middle ground.
But the art, again, like we said at the top, the art really carries us like, look how weird and creepy and gross it is. And you're like, yeah, it's all those things.
It looks great.
Yeah.
It does look, I mean, the art carries it fully.
Yeah. What it does, I think, well, it being like, again, Immortal Hulk was like quite different tonally and everything. I think this does a good job of doing enough different stuff in all, facets while retaining the stuff that people know and love about this character. For example, there's a trope in Hulk that's, especially as a character alone, where Banner's in some situation and it looks like it's going to go bad for him, and you just know as you're reading it, you're like, he's about to Hulk out.
Yeah.
But you're looking forward to these people are going to get their comeuppance because he's about to Hulk out on them.
Yeah, and they don't know he's about to Hulk out.
Exactly.
You do.
And you have that little bit of like, that's going to be good when it happens. And then it happens. And you're like, that's good.
It was good. But it was just as good as I thought it would be.
They still managed to change it a little bit. Like it happens a few times in this series, but in this one, there's like a church full of zombies and they're about to kill Banner and the girl, Charlie. And he's talking to Hulk internally and he's like, Hulk, they're going to kill us. Like, I kind of need you, man. And Hulk's just like, well, they're going to kill you first. So implying, I'll wait for you to suffer a death, then I'll come and save the girl.
Yeah.
And so it's you taking the old stuff, the old tropes that still work, but adding that like modern updated twist of like how it defines the relationship and stuff.
That was a really cool moment. The thing that Ryan hasn't mentioned is that you see Hulk talking to Banner reflected in the blade of a knife.
Yeah. And they've been doing that kind of stuff like a lot, like with like he sees him in the mirror and it's the most obvious, like it'd be weird if you didn't do it. Like of course he's gonna see the Hulk in the mirror. But
it's still cool, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I should have mentioned with art, but the font, like this is probably again an established Hulk thing, having Hulk's voice be in the green text with
distinct
the black
from
background
Banner
and stuff.
Did you notice, by the way? Did you notice something on the start of issue 3?
The reference to the tribute to John Romita.
the eulogy to John Romita. It just kind of, because now when I think of John Romita, I feel guilty.
As you should. You were very mean to his son.
If you don't know what we're referencing, find our Amazing Spider-Man episode from a couple years ago and give it a listen. I was cruel.
And I think later on, I can't remember which episode, I think we linked if I could be asked, and I can't remember if I did or not, finding the original discussion.
Because we re-edited that, so I'm a bit nicer, but initially I was fucking scathing.
Yeah, so that might be out there somewhere in the world, I can't remember.
But yeah, I think, do you know what? We've barely talked about the comic, but I feel like we've talked about the comic without talking about it this week. And
yes.
That for me is like my favourite as a listener to my own podcast.
I think with this, again, like I did say at the top, this one is hard to talk about in terms of plot point because it is not doing anything. Yeah, it's not doing anything particularly amazing or blowing away. What it is doing, in some ways, sometimes we'll talk, the art is just serviceable enough to get the plot across. I think here, the plot is just enough to get you to points where the art really shines and shows off.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a more art-heavy, art-focused comic series, which is rare in this day and age.
Yeah.
But I think this especially earns it because it is so, again, B-movie horror-esque.
Yeah.
And still introducing like characters we know, like Man-Thing appears in the 4th issue.
Yeah.
It takes place in a swamp. It's all very kind of like rainy and disgusting and gross. And again, the plot, I don't care why they're in the swamp.
Yeah.
But they get to a point where there's a big monster in a swamp and Hulk has to fight. And I'm like, great, because it looks awesome.
Is Hulk fighting in a swamp? Who doesn't want that?
Exactly. And I highly recommend it. And I don't think we've properly mentioned it at this point since we had a technical snafu earlier in the episode. But what we were going to do was we were going to be covering the series that takes place immediately after this one ends.
Infernal Hulk.
I use ends in big quote marks.
Yeah.
Because essentially the story continues.
Should we just do that next week?
Again, I don't think we're going to
have something better planned.
No, I just don't think we're going to have that much different stuff to say. I think a lot of what we said about this can, again, because it's the same creative team. It's the same story. It's the same.
we'll park that conversation.
Yeah,
We'll have that conversation when we talk about it.
The only reason I'm bringing it up at all is just to say that this is a series that is still going now, so it's still
just with a different issue number, basically.
And a different title.
Yeah.
And at the very least, we've had it before in previous comics where I've been like, this series is starting at 1, so we should cover it for the podcast. And then we read it, it's like, is this number what? Or you've been like, are you sure this is number 1?
Well, it'll be like
She-Hulk was a big one for that.
Yeah. I remember there was like a lot of references to stuff that happened, and it sort of assumed I knew what was going on, but it was issue 1, and I was like, I was kind of hoping for an origin story because I know nothing about She-Hulk at this stage.
Or at the very least, starting just from like the character status quo.
And
and then this new story starts from there.
But and we've talked about it before, I think, where it's basically just a way of like soft relaunching a series, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And just that's the most egregious version, like that She-Hulk one. And it happens a lot in other series as well, where it's just like same creative team, same story. They've just slapped a 1 on it for whatever reason, right? Yeah. At least with this, there is, without to spoil the end of the Incredible Hulk series, something does happen in the story where, like, me reading it and how like annoyed by that whole pointless renumbering number ones I am. I'm at least like, I get why you've done it. Like, I get why you've changed the title and it's number 1 again and stuff. I just wish maybe there was a bit more of like some way they could be like, this is the same story continued kind of thing. And if you are a person in a comic book shop who's like, I think I missed the last Incredible Hulk series, but it looks like it's restarted again, and it's now called the Infernal Hulk, so maybe I'll give this a try. And then they're opening and they're like, what the hell is happening? Like, I don't understand any of this. And it's like referencing like, yes, the Eldritch horror, and it's a separate, did all the stuff to the Hulk and he's different now. And you're like, okay, was that the last series? Did I miss that? And is it like, do you think that last series has ended and it's just continuing from that status quo is left, or
it just it doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make that point of like, it's still happening now, but it's can be confusing if you're like, oh, shame I missed out on the Incredible Hulk. Wrong, it's still going on.
It's still going.
Yeah.
You could just get to own another comic book that has number 1 on it.
Exactly.
So I think we should go to our favorite place, Ryan, which is
Comment Corner.
Comment Corner. Now, would you like to read this comment, or should I?
So I'll read the comment out because I think I've got the first stuff to say about it. But we did get a comment on the Spotify, which I just thought was interesting enough to bring up. From one, it was on the last episode, the Batman Nightfall.
Don't name and shame them. Don't name and shame them.
So someone left. I mean, you can see it on the Spotify thing if you want to find it. But someone left a comment saying, "Seriously, screw these two morons. They are, for some reason, extremely obsessed with US politics, have a very limited understanding of it, and spent half the episode going on and on with hot takes." Now, I'm disputing it to a degree. Fair enough, calling us morons. I think most
fucking own that.
Our friends and family would absolutely support you in that, 100%, and any listeners of the podcast, I assume, as well. The issue is, they left this on the Nightfall episode, and that's probably one of the episodes that we mentioned US politics the least in. Yeah,
I maybe made one passing comment about Charlie Kirk being a cockwomble.
Yeah,
and I believe that is the exact verbiage.
If I had to narrow it down, but it's just funny because if I had any concern about that episode that they've commented on, it would have been, yeah, we talked about Jason Todd and Red Hood for far more than was needed. Yeah. I talked ad nauseum about Jason Todd in that episode. So it's funny that the thing that gets just the passing comment, it gets the hate mail.
I don't know how to respond to comments on Spotify, because what I really want to say to this guy is, if you didn't like this, you'd hate our episode about the Batman annual.
So what? But this is what the funny thing is. This person left a comment on that episode.
Yeah.
And it was a funny comment. It made me laugh. Was in quoting us, says they're not going to talk, says they're going to put all the political talk in a separate episode, goes on to talk about American politics for the rest of the episode. And I was like, I want to be like, mate, if you thought that was hot take American politics stuff, check out the other thing that was linked below. But what's especially funny is they left that comment back then. That was like a couple of months ago.
They're still listening.
And I just want to say thank you for your continued listenership, despite the fact that we are annoying you with our takes. Like, I really value that kind of listener.
Absolutely, yeah. You just keep coming back, baby.
Yeah, and we're probably not going to change it anyway.
Do you know what? Hate listens is still good for the algorithm, my friend.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And comments especially.
Hate comments? I fucking live for them.
Exactly. So, yeah, that was all we wanted to mention there.
So thank you so much for listening. Ryan is going to be releasing a YouTube video soon, maybe about the Absolute series, maybe not. I'm maybe going to be releasing one either about St. Edmund or about some Japanese ghouls. So make sure to hit up Comic Stan, is your YouTube channel?
Yes, Comic Stan.
And mine is Myths for Sad Grown-Ups. And then I hope you have a lovely time.
So there was a bit of a delay there because I went onto the Spotify comment and just kindly responded with, thanks for the comment. Be sure to tune in next week for the start of Marvchel.
But you've kind of interrupted my outro that I tried to do. So thank you. Bye.
And tune in next week for the beginning of Marvchel. Got something big planned. Don't you worry.
We love Marvchel.
I mean, it's Marvchel after all.
It's every year.
And thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe to get notified of our future episodes as well. And if you're feeling particularly generous, then please leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you're using. If you'd like to get in contact with us, then send an email to comicglitter@gmail.com. You can also watch videos by me on the Comic Stand YouTube page, which is linked in the description. Thank you, goodbye.